From the studios of KENW on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University, it's You Should Know, featuring the people and events of Eastern New Mexico and West Texas.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to You Should Know here on KENW TV. I'm your host, Tim Gutierrez, and we have the pleasure and the honor of having a special guest right here in our studios, Dr. James Johnston, the Chancellor of Eastern New Mexico University and the whole system. He's with us here today to talk a little bit about what he's seen so far here at Eastern, talk a little bit about his experience, and just a chance for people to get to know you a little bit, Dr. Johnston. Thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let's kind of start from the top. You've been at Eastern New Mexico University now as the head guy for a couple of months. What have you seen so far?
I've seen a lot of Santa Fe. No, it's really, it's been a great experience. Certainly with a long session, that's occupied a lot of my time. But I'd say broadly in the community, everywhere we've been on campus, it's just that great family welcoming spirit. And we knew it would be here. I've said to a number of people, growing up on the plains, the state line doesn't change the culture and the people of this high plains area. And so it really has been that sense of coming home and interacting with everyone here. So, that's been great.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. People are getting to know you, but perhaps some people in our audience haven't met you or heard too much about you. Where are you coming from? Where are you from originally? And talk a little bit about family.
Sure. I came from Wichita Falls. Previous university was Midwestern State University, coming here. But I've lived around the state of Texas. I spent about 16 years in the Houston area. My clinical practice part was as medical imaging, radiologic science was at MD Anderson. That's where I started in higher education, was at Wharton County Junior College down there. But I was born in Slayton, Texas. Went to high school, public school at Southland, a very small village, about halfway between Lubbock and Post. And my parents were farmers, cotton farmers, so that's my background, my family upbringing. I, again, kind of moved around the state after I went to college. I started at South Plains College. A lot of people know that I'm a first-generation college graduate. I think that's where my sense of passion for the work that I do stems from, is providing that access and opportunity to higher education that I received. And as a first generation, just letting students know that, you belong here. You can do this, whether it's a certificate or an advanced degree. So that's where that started. But again, growing up in the plains, love this area. As a young person, you think, I want to go anywhere. I want to, move, explore, see the world. And it's really has come full circle, kind of coming back to this area. A lot of first generation rural students. And, I've also worked with students from large metropolitan areas. So, have that sense of in range and getting to come back here. And my wife, Stephanie, is native New Mexican. She was born in Alamogordo. She grew up in Las Cruces. She went to Mayfield High School in Cruces, graduated from New Mexico State, but we don't hold that against her. She's. Yeah. If nothing else, like me, I always joke that we can be rescue hounds if that's where we need to be. I'm very happy to be there, but she's also very happy to be back. And this really puts us back near family. We have 4 children, 10 grandchildren.
Wow.
Portales is kind of the middle of everybody. And actually for the rodeo Sunday, we have 3 of the 4 and their families are going to converge on the house this weekend to see the campus and enjoy a little bit of rodeo.
That's so cool. So I know you spent a lot of time in Santa Fe, and we'll kind of circle around to that in a while about the legislative session that's going right now. Talk about the strengths and weaknesses that you've seen at Eastern New Mexico University. Hopefully not too many weaknesses, but talk a little bit about what you've seen so far just being in as the top dog for 2 months.
Sure, sure. Really, it is focused around strengths, and that was one of the things that attracted me to the position, the opportunity, is what ENMU and the system represents, and that opportunity for growth, and really extending or expanding that mission. Um, I would say the biggest strengths are the people, and on campus and off. We have a great faculty and staff that are very eager to serve our students, to continue to grow, to uh, innovate. I've talked a little bit about that. Kind of my approach to growth. What we have in place, how we make those connections, the natural synergy of our programs and offerings, and there's a lot of excitement around that. A lot of a great response, and in the community also, there are people in the community that obviously want to see Eastern grow, and that's not only in Portales. I've had the opportunity that the presidents in Roswell and Ruidoso were very gracious in creating community receptions. So Stephanie and I have had the opportunity to visit both campuses, and there's that same community support that I think is extremely important, and I will need those communities to help us grow. It's the all boats rise mentality. And really, it's not a weakness. I see opportunity to increase the resources that come to Eastern into the system from the state and from other revenue streams that would again allow us to expand our mission and serve more students and help more students be successful.
A lot of times presidents of universities, chancellors come in and they're coming into a system that has lots of problems. You're coming into a system that has a solid bedrock, fiscally sound. In fact, the Board of Regents decided that there would be no tuition fees increases and so forth. And our enrollment is actually up. I think we reported 6 to 7%. So you have a solid bedrock that you can now build on. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And working with my leadership team and recommending to the Board of Regents that no tuition and fee increase. It's not a forever situation, but as I stepped into the role, really looking at how we are funding the operations of the university, and really want to see the correct portion of that coming from the state. And New Mexico is very generous, I think, as a state in supporting higher education. So I think there's a lot of promise and opportunity there. It's just again, educating both the state and the people involved with that on the great things that are happening here, how we fund that. And I'm always very sensitive. Again, as a first generation, I went to college on Pell Grant scholarships. I worked
Hmm.
full time, evenings, weekends. I've done all of that. Very sensitive to the cost to our students. So that's always top of mind. What's in the best interest of our students, and at the same time delivering that high quality education that we deliver. And unfortunately, that cost. There's a business to this too that
Hmm.
we have to fund. Yeah.
You touched on it lightly, but and it's not unique to ENMU, but you have two other campuses, one in Ruidoso,
Yeah.
one in Roswell. Have you visited those campuses, and what were your thoughts when you stepped on those campuses?
Yes, I had the opportunity to visit both, talk with the faculty and staff at both, and really get a sense of the role they serve in those respective communities. And again, one of the things most impressed by, again, great faculty and staff, um, great students, great programming, a lot of opportunity to continue to grow those, and meeting the community and how enthusiastic and excited the community was about having these colleges, and the role that it plays in the growth. So that's been been tremendous, and I love to see uh, that support and that energy. The other thing I would say that is great is the enthusiasm of our alums. Had a couple of alumni events and meeting some of the great alums across the span of the history of the university. And even our lobbyist noted this when we were in Santa Fe. He said, I meet uh, alums from other universities. Say, oh yeah, I graduated from that. he said, from Eastern, it's always this energy, this and
Mhm.
hey, I'm an Eastern alum. So
Absolutely.
that kind of energy and that kind of excitement, that kind of pride. And I said, I love to see that. That's great to have, and we have seen it everywhere we've been that we've encountered alums. That's that response. So great to be a part of that.
You had a very short honeymoon period before you were thrust into the New Mexico legislature. I know that's your favorite topic. Just kidding. I know you've had to spend so much time there that you could have spent kind of organizing stuff. Talk about the legislative session, how it's gone, the learning curve there, and a little bit about what you're hearing.
Yeah, I am cautiously optimistic about the outcomes from this session. Um, One of the things to learn, this it's a year-round process. So one of the things that I've behind on and stepping in, again at the very beginning of the session is there's a lot of groundwork. There's a lot of background work that happens leading up to that session that I think we would have been better positioned had I had the opportunity to go through the entire
Yeah.
process. So there's some learning there, but we were still able to gain ground, during the session. Again, you're kind of late to the process, but uh, positive movement. Our local senators, representatives have been very supportive of Eastern. That's always great to have, and uh, also helping me learn the process as we go. But our requests, our funding, all of those things have been um, a challenge, at times, getting our
Mm.
message out and our, across, and this, they are, there's so much demands on their time there. So what I've learned as you go through that, all the trips up there for a few minutes in the hallway or a few minutes in the office is what's needed. That's worthwhile. Those are good trips. It's not the sit down like this and have a very long conversation, although I've had the opportunity for some of those. It's really that very quick in the hallway and the flow of the work that is important, and we'll continue to do that.
Let's talk about the state of higher education. There's a big kind of push to vocational education in some states, including in New Mexico in some parts. Talk about the state of higher education and maybe the difference between Texas and New Mexico that you've seen so far.
Sure. I think broadly, of course, state of higher education through the pandemic, there were a lot of things that um, they were a struggle, and I think everyone's more or less familiar with those. The going remote and or it was called online. It's but that version. There were some that didn't survive, didn't weather the storm. Some institutions, there were some that come out on the other side, stronger. And what I see it now is opportunity to grow, to provide that, to respond to the needs of today's students. There's those that still very much, a large number that still very much want that in-person experience. It's a great, very rich learning environment. There are some that are happy with online or distance learning, and but it's always been there. We can serve both of those. There's I think a little more of a middle, students that need a little bit of flexibility by having online, but otherwise in person, and we'll respond to all of those. As far as the certificates and degrees and all those, coming from a community college and a university background, I've never seen those that have been one wax or wane. There's cyclic. I think they've both grown together. That I think it's just the public's attention or focus on those. They've never diminished in importance. So I've always worked on the vocational side, the certificates, making sure that we have those in place and offered. And what I want Eastern to be is that place where they come to throughout their career, whether that's another certificate, another degree, that we can fill that need. But I've never seen, in my personal opinion, one be less important than the other. It's responding to the market you find yourself in.
Okay, fair enough. We're going to keep our fingers crossed, but many are saying that we may not have the budget surplus in the coming years from oil and gas that Texas and New Mexico are seeing this budget cycle. Are there some capital outlay projects that are a one-time type of thing that Eastern might be looking at because there's this extra money? A project that's $20 million and you might be able to get it because the budget is so robust?
Yeah, and I think that's the general sense that I've had in Santa Fe is the one-time money. There's a little more willingness to fund some of the bigger projects. The recurring money is where everyone's and rightly so being a little more cautious because that oil and gas is cyclic, and those down years, and being prepared for that, investing the money well. And my response to those, if you're looking at places to invest the recurring money, higher education creates that economic engine that you're looking for, that educated, trained workforce that gives back to the state. My role as a regional comprehensive university with branch campuses is, again, to recruit local, educate local, and try to keep those. You also bring in from out of state. It's not like we're ignoring those, but I always say I want to import and keep them here, bring great talent to the state and educate them and keep them in New Mexico. So that's where I see it. And there's a willingness to invest the money there. It's just a little more cautious on the recurring money.
Let's bring out the salesman in you a little bit. If you were talking to a prospective student, why would they want to come to Eastern New Mexico University in Portales, New Mexico?
Sure. And I know in New Mexico, our in-state students have the lottery. They have that tuition fee paid for, so they can elect to go anywhere. What we bring to that is high quality education. We have the small classroom, the small class sizes, that personal touch and attention, and being a part of a family. There's a high quality education. You can get that different places. Our focus is on each individual student succeeding and walking across the stage. So we have the program you offer. We can deliver it, I think, in the most supportive and most enthusiastic way of any university in the state.
When we met, and that way you had just started, you had been in office maybe a week, and we were talking a little bit. I got to know you a little bit more. And one of the surprising things that you talked about, and right now you're wearing cowboy boots, is your love for horses and equestrian sports. Can you talk about that as people get to know you a little bit more? That might be something that people might be surprised about.
Sure. Growing up, I got to spend a little bit of time on horseback here and there. I had friends that had horses and would help and work and do that. My wife Stephanie has been an equestrian since she was 6, 7 years old, so she's ridden her entire life. She was the one, she rode on the equestrian team at New Mexico State, so she's competed at different levels. When she and I met, she brought that competitive side of equestrian events to the marriage, to the relationship. But what I've always enjoyed about that work with a horse, it's really a meditative process. You have to focus on the horse, what the horse is doing. There's everything else has to be put out of your mind. It's just really, particularly in competition or preparing for a competition, it's a constant interaction with the horse. And I always said you have a teammate that you don't speak the same language verbally, but there's that interaction, and that's what I really enjoy about the sport. And riding into the arena, it's just you and the horse, what you're able to do in that moment. I've never left the arena that I didn't think, if I could just go right back in and do one more thing. That's that competitive part of me. I played basketball in high school and enjoyed that team sport, and it's just I guess a different version. But what I truly miss the day to day, where we just moved from small horse farm. We had the horses there on our place in our backyard, and to go home, saddle up and ride, and it's just that relaxing, whether it's 20 minutes or a couple hours. And so we're had made a lot of connections in the community, people that, potential. So when we have that opportunity, we can buy back in, so to speak, get back to competing. But I've said to a few, I said, I may have to borrow a couple of horses because we're really missing that at this point.
Was it a stress reliever? Was it one of those types of situations, or did it create more stress at times?
No, absolutely a stress relief. I never get worked up about or nervous about competing. It's always been in my nature. I think even bringing that to this position, my approach to everything. Of people say you never seem rattled, you never seem upset, you never seem anxious, and my view is just the next problem to solve. So even that competing, it's just that interaction with a horse. It's that solving problems as
Mhm.
you go, and it's very much a relaxing experience.
I grew up on ranches on both sides of my father and my mother, and I was around quarter horses a lot. But you're not talking quarter horses here. What are you talking about when in your sport?
I've worked with and ridden, quarter horses, several different breeds, but these are Arabian and
Okay.
half Arabian. And some people are, shy away from this, a little too spirited, as a
Hmm.
nice way. They're very intelligent, very human oriented as a breed, and you can, uh, you have to pay attention all the time. A smart animal, a very responsive animal, uh, as our trainer always said, you're either riding or you're along for the ride. You never want to be along for the
Yeah,
ride.
exactly,
So,
exactly. Well, Eastern has a great rodeo team. I don't know if you've had a chance to go out to the arena or maybe even to a rodeo. Have you had the chance to do that yet, or have you been so entrenched in the Santa Fe legislative action that you haven't yet?
we were able to go. We've been out, walked through everything with Coach Flynn, and kind of gave us a history of our rodeo team and where our team is. And I was really looking forward to seeing the first rodeo this Sunday. Time we're doing this, and it's also the same time as confirmation of our new regent. So I'll be getting up at 4 a.m. and driving to Santa Fe instead of getting to enjoy the rodeo. But really looking forward to all of our student athletes who had an opportunity to attend some different events. Baseball and softball have kicked in. We've been enjoying basketball and getting to see first rodeo, and uh, just a breadth of talent of our students in those, and also all the performances. That's the fun part of a university.
Yeah.
Musical performances, all those things. So it's been great to be just jump back into university life. Yeah.
Sports fans in both Texas and New Mexico, they kind of breathe and eat football. We love our football here. And you're starting your tenure when we were able to attract a coach that had won so many games over his tenure here.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, very excited about, and I had the opportunity to meet Coach Lee as he
Yeah.
was onboarding this, kind of in that transition, uh, of leadership, and by his reputation, his work, and I know he's recruited a great group of athletes, and really looking forward to what we look like in the fall. And yeah, you're right. It's the football is just kind of that part of the culture, and of course on the plains you can see those Friday night lights from
Hmm.
miles around.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a game, you just follow the lights, and uh, but very much looking forward to it. And I think one of the things I may not have mentioned prior as part of the interview process, when I at the time I applied, we were really looking at Portales and looking at Eastern, just what it feels like
Hmm.
to live here and be a part of the community. So we happened to be traveling, Stephanie and I, and we got tickets to a football game here, and
Okay.
um, Liz Acosta got us tickets on the home side, so we weren't wearing opposing team gear or anything like that. It's like, what, let's just go sit on the home side and just see the reaction, the response. And that was one of the things that really struck us. The number of what I know now is employees of the university in the stands, the number of young families in the stands, young kids, high school, uh, elementary age kids that were in the stands and were cheering on the Hounds. And I said, that's the family atmosphere. That's what we're looking for, what we want to be a part of. So it's football. I've seen the same thing in other sports, and certainly. But anyway, that kind of sense of community and what football does.
It's really nice to hear that wherever you go, those Eastern alum come up to you and say, "Hey, I'm from Eastern.
Yeah.
It was a great university," and that kind of stuff. And I've seen that in so many places in Texas and Colorado, where I meet alum and so forth. So it's always a great thing. Anything you'd like to add as people get to know you and people may start reaching out to you and saying hi and so forth. Anything you want to put out there?
I have said at each opportunity, if you see us on campus in town, stop me, say hello. I remember faces. I'm not always great with names, so I always apologize in advance if I don't remember your name. but I really love meeting the people here, getting to know the people here, what they're interested in, what brings them here, keeps them here. So anytime you see me anywhere in the community around the state, please stop me and say hello. And looking forward to visiting with you and getting to know you.
Well, you seem very passionate about the role that you have ahead here at Eastern New Mexico University, and we thank you for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank
we
you.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
it.
Again, Dr. James Johnston, the Chancellor of Eastern New Mexico University, right here on You Should Know. We'll see you next week.